Welcome to Carter's Retro Review. Today we're going to be reviewing... Well, actually, what are we going to be reviewing? Hang on. Give me a sec. Frank Thomas, Big Hurt Baseball. Another baseball game. F***. Now, before we get to the review of Big Thomas's... Big Thomas's? I meant Frank Thomas. He doesn't look very big. Boom! Now, before I get on to Frank Thomas's Big Hurt Baseball, I almost said it again wrong. Frank Thomas's Big Hurt Baseball, I just want to bring up one thing, and that is people say that I say Sega wrong. And you're right, it's my dumb accent, it's our dumb country where we've said Sega, and that's been drilled into our heads from day dot. But the argument is that when you turn on your Mega Drive or your Genesis if you're from the US, and you play, well, pretty much any Sonic game, it'll come up and say, Sega. But it doesn't. It might, where you're from, wherever that may be, but here in Australia, it doesn't say that. Hey, if you don't believe me, check it out.
Sega.
You're going to watch this and think to yourself,
what does some crack-ass cracker from Australia know about baseball? He's probably never even baseball in his life.
And you're right. All I have to my resume is one other baseball game which I thought was pretty average, Bases Loaded 96. Now I plan on using that as a frame of reference for this review, and I plan to change that as I go through all the baseball games on the Saturn which you can pick up for cents in the dollar. Last year I played Bases Loaded 96 coupled with this one and a few other baseball games over the course of a few days, and while my footage is from that time, I had to replay it again to give an indication on the feel of the game. Nothing's changed, my opinion still stands. Straight off the bat, I don't even know who the fuck Frank Thomas is, but from what I read, this seems to be a pretty common opinion. They say,
Frank Thomas? Who the fuck is that?
Unless you're well versed in the sport. Or maybe from America. Maybe Americans know him as well as the rest of the world knows Brad Pitt. Or maybe it's like those who know the basketballs and have heard of Jordan. You know, Sir Air Jordan, as I'm led to believe is his first name. It was common to have a big star of the sport either featured or have his name in the title of the game. But they couldn't afford Babe Ruth, so they got this guy. Must have been a 90s thing. For those who are seeking a more serious review, I'm sorry for disappoint. What's more surprising is that I didn't think baseball was a big sport in Japan because this game was released in all three territories for the Saturn, US, PAL, and Japan. It was developed by Iguana Entertainment. Iguana Entertainment? Where have I heard that name before? Batman the arcade game? Acclaim published the game, which is not necessarily a sign that this game is dog shit, as they've done some good games in amongst the dead shit ones as well. Now, this game is better than Bases Loaded 96, but by how much? Let's check it out. Presentation on the game menus is straightforward and the design is above average. It does give me this look that would be totally reminiscent of ESPN from the 90s in regards to font, but I've seen this many times where they take a picture and they cast a colour over the entire picture. Blue is the colour this time, and it's quite a common theme. I didn't care for it when I saw it in previous games, and while the blending of the blue colour and the rest of the presentation is softer, I still don't really like it. Yes, it is nitpicking, but I feel it's important to get a mention. The in-game presentation is pretty standard with the baseball stats coming up when a player bats, and the colours they use seem to work in fine. Graphically, this is actually pretty damn good. While I will admit this was a surprise, it's tidy, good detailing, good animation, good colours, just good. There's good shading, good models, no dithering, and even though the crowd is a pixelated mess, I wouldn't expect any less really for the time. Sound is a real letdown. Like finding out 3/4 of a way through a skin flick that you've been beating it to a tranny. Do I continue, or do I find a different video? I feel like I've committed to too much at this juncture. There's no sound which really takes away from the atmosphere. Give me some lame stadium music, and that fucking organ music. I'd be happy with that. Gameplay is pretty bland. It has all the hallmarkings of a good game with accurate controls, good graphics and presentation, but the game itself is lackluster, and it's not to say that baseball itself is lackluster, just the way the game handles. Some have mentioned in the past about the controls for the batsman being a little shit, but I found it to be just fine. There's plenty of options outside of the gameplay with day or night play, stadium selecting, batting order change-ups, player substitutions, choice of camera angles, and manual or automatic fielding. It probably goes hand in hand with the lack of atmosphere, but this was far better than Bases Loaded 96. It wasn't the best baseball game from the lot I played last year. It's missing a real personality or some X factor to really make me give you the definitive answer you're looking for. The AI for the game seems to be alright. I kind of find this thing hard to gauge because if you saw my gameplay from Bases Loaded 96, you'll notice that I'm so amazing at baseball games I lost 36-0. Replayability is a single player with a few modes to try, all on the proviso that you enjoy the gameplay. There's a bit here to get through between exhibition, season, playoff, all-star, home run derby, and batting practice. Would I recommend this game? If you're looking for a baseball game, well, okay, yeah, there's better ones on the Saturn, but this in itself is quite good for baseball, even if I didn't have a whole lot of fun. It was nearly as much fun as I'm ever going to have with a baseball game. I say that with a title or two in the back of my mind that were more fun than this. If you're not a fan of the sport, this is not like NBA Jam. Walk away.
Strike three. Caught him looking. 3 up, 3 down. The side is retired. At the end of the 7th inning, the score is tied